Today, let's talk about autophagy and how you can improve this metabolic process. And if you're not familiar with the term autophagy, it essentially means self-eating. It's essentially a type of cellular house cleaning where specialized cells called lysosomes break down old proteins, cellular debris, and worn out organelles like ribosomes, mitochondria, etc., which can then be recycled. Basically, autophagy keeps cells healthy and in turn keeps us healthy too. Now, the thing to know is that autophagy is going on inside the body all the time. But what are some ways in which we can help this process along? One way is to eat more foods that raise AMPK. AMPK is an enzyme that either increases or decreases depending on how much food we're consuming, and you can make a blanket statement and say that anything that raises AMPK will also boost autophagy too. Now, one thing you have in your home right now which will improve autophagy is caffeine. Various studies have revealed that caffeine can increase autophagy in skeletal muscle cells, and one of the ways in which it appears to do this is by increasing that AMPK enzyme. However, I wouldn't use that as an excuse to be guzzling down high caffeine energy drinks, which have been associated with some pretty serious health consequences. But that does beg the question, if caffeine raises autophagy, what about the most popular caffeinated drink in the world, coffee? Yes, both caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee have been shown to improve autophagy in laboratory animals. And one of the ways in which coffee appears to work is by inhibiting the mammalian target of rapamycin, better known as mTOR. That's a protein-based enzyme that's involved in cell growth and metabolism. However, the fact that decaffeinated coffee also appears to work tells us that there are more things in coffee besides caffeine that seems to induce autophagy. For example, several studies have shown that chlorogenic acid, better known as green coffee extract, also ramps up autophagy. And as an added bonus, several studies have also shown that regular coffee drinkers seem to have lower risk of different health problems too. Even better than that, those drinking 3 cups of coffee a day also appear to have at least a 13% lower risk of mortality from all causes. However, when it comes to drinking coffee, I do have one potential caveat, and that is adding milk to your coffee. Milk binds up chlorogenic acid, and if this is true, it means that potentially adding milk to your coffee may reduce the autophagy boosting benefits of coffee. Next up is green tea. Green tea contains a multitude of polyphenols, and one polyphenol compound that has gotten a lot of attention is called EGCG. Some studies have shown that EGCG can also improve autophagy as well. EGCG appears to work through a variety of different mechanisms, including not only raising AMPK and lowering mTOR, but also improving the overall viability of your cells too. Unfortunately, there seems to be more research on EGCG than drinking green tea, but in theory, drinking green tea should also improve autophagy too. Now, if you're thinking about a supplement, keep in mind that the optimal amount of EGCG for inducing autophagy is not known. And I bring that up because over the years, there have been various reports of EGCG supplements being toxic to the liver. And so my advice is, until we know more, opt for drinking green tea over high potency green tea supplements. Various animal and human studies have also revealed that regular exercise can improve autophagy too. Now, any amount of physical activity will have health benefits. However, if you're going to opt for exercise to improve autophagy, keep in mind that some research suggested it may take at least 60 minutes of aerobic exercise for this cellular mechanism to kick in. In this 8-week-long clinical trial, both moderate exercise and high-intensity interval training were shown to increase markers of autophagy. However, high-intensity interval training was not shown to be superior to moderate-intensity exercise. In fact, high-intensity interval training did not raise some markers of autophagy, which means that moderate-intensity exercise may actually be superior than HIIT training. And I know what you're thinking, what about strength training? In this study involving 15 men and women, a single bout of strength training involving 6 sets of 8 reps of 80% of 1 repetition maximum failed to induce autophagy. However, autophagy did occur when those people consumed 89 grams of protein immediately after strength training. Bottom line, I'm looking forward to more research on resistance training, post-exercise feeding, to get a better idea of how strength training affects autophagy. Next up is fasting, which may be the most well-studied way to improve autophagy. Fasting appears to work by not only raising AMPK and longevity enzymes called sirtuins, but also lowering mTOR as well. In this study involving people who fasted for 18 hours, they saw about a 22% improvement in a fasting-associated gene. And that's important because it appears that it may take between 12 and 16 hours of fasting before autophagy begins to kick in. And other research suggests that it may take between 24 and 48 hours before autophagy begins to really become significant. One caution with this, however, is I would not suggest calorie restriction fasting in frail older adults who may already not be getting enough nutrients to begin with, may have health problems, and may also be taking various medications too. And another reason for this is there is some speculation that autophagy mechanisms may actually be impaired in older adults too. And it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, starvation diet's not a good idea for many reasons. Curcumin is one of the most widely studied of the curcuminoids, compounds found in the spice called turmeric. And one of the ways in which curcumin is thought to be healthy is by inducing autophagy. And that sounds good. However, the optimum amount of curcumin to induce autophagy in humans is not currently known. Now, if you're opting for supplements, you may notice on the supplement facts label that curcumin may come packaged with another compound called black pepper. And that's because there's a compound in black pepper called piperine, which has also been shown to not only enhance the absorption of the curcumin and turmeric, but piperine also seems to induce autophagy too. In theory, curcumin and black pepper together may induce autophagy better than either one by themselves. However, there's just not a lot of research on that just yet. There's also research that ginger induces autophagy and that this may work against some forms of cancer, but whether or not ginger benefits people who have cancer requires more study. And that brings us to a very interesting compound called spermidine, and you can take a wild guess where spermidine was first discovered. Spermidine is really popular in the anti-aging arena because we make less spermidine as we get older, and other lines of research have suggested that some people who are in their 90s and above actually have higher levels of spermidine. Consuming spermidine containing foods may have a variety of health benefits in the body, and one of them is, you guessed it, more autophagy. And this appears to potentially having some real life effects. When researchers followed almost 1,000 men and women for over 20 years, they came to the conclusion that the single nutrient that was most associated with not passing away was spermidine. Now, there are three basic ways to improve spermidine levels. We can take arginine supplements, we can eat more spermidine containing foods, and our gut microbiome can make this stuff too. Good food sources of spermidine include wheat germ, mushrooms, kidney beans, and more. And of all of those foods, I think wheat germ is probably one of the easiest ways to add spermidine to your diet. You can add wheat germ to oatmeal, make smoothies with it. Heck, I've even added wheat germ to chili and other foods too. By the way, if you'd rather opt for a spermidine supplement, make sure you inspect the supplement facts label of the product you're going to purchase. In some supplements that I've seen, the key ingredient in spermidine supplements is actually wheat germ. Wheat germ is a great source of spermidine, but you can get wheat germ for a lot less at your local grocery store. Honorable mention also goes to both Blueberries and Resveratrol, which both have some research that they seem to induce autophagy too. And if you're curious which one might work better, if I had to put my money on one of those, I'd pick blueberries because it's a whole food and it has a lot more nutrients in it than just Resveratrol by itself. So autophagy usually gets a lot of publicity as a healthy biological process, but I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you about one potential caution, and here it is. Speak to your doctor and pharmacist before you buy any autophagy-inducing supplement if you have cancer, a history of cancer, or are going through any kind of cancer therapy. Think about it. If the supplements actually did increase autophagy, would you want them improving autophagy in the cancer cells? Probably not, because that might make the cancer cells more resistant to the cancer therapy. Now, that's a worst case scenario, and it is theoretical. However, given the ramifications, I'd rather mention this to you than not. Comment below if you think I missed anything, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time real soon.